And joining us on a campaign stop in Port Hawkesbury is the NDP candidate for the riding of Inverness, which now includes Port Hawkesbury. Joanna Clark is with us on Telile 24/7 today. Thank you for joining us, Joanna.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and I want to begin by asking you, how did you decide to take your first crack at elected politics this time around, and what made the NDP a good fit for you in running for Inverness?
Kind of in like the most weird way, I guess, and I think the pandemic has a lot to do with it. I've done a lot of work with student politics in the past, and so I kind of am familiar with the NDP platform in that way, just because they kind of are the ones that are most looking out for students. So that's kind of my first introduction. And the reason that I wanted to run now is because I feel like increasingly over the past 5 years, but really over the last two, young folks are just getting so much, blame or being put down in a way, and they're being told that they don't care, they're not motivated, and all of these kinds of things. And so I felt like as a young person right now, it's the perfect opportunity to just put my name forward and have a conversation started about young folks, and just proving that we're not apathetic and we care about politics, and we are really looking forward to a future where there's success and there's validation towards our opinions.
Even though you're running in Inverness, our viewers in Isle Madame might recognize you because you were a student at Université Saint Anne's Isle Madame campus at La Picasse in Petit de Gras, and during that time you served as an executive on the board of directors for the Canadian Federation of Students. So I'm just curious as to how you feel that particular experience translates well for you as you get ready for your first crack at elected politics with this NDP run.
Yeah, I think it's not a super hard jump. I think that's what I've been telling a lot of folks is, I am young, but I have a lot of experience. And so I started with student politics just on my own student council at St. Anne, which was really fun. And it was really just an interesting way to get a behind the scene looks into how post-secondary education works and how it's run. And then through that, I started working with the Canadian Federation of Students. And that allowed me to really look really into even deeper how things work and how, governments are prioritized in budgets and all of those things. And a lot of the issues that we've been advocating for at the Canadian Federation of Students really just ties into now me running right now. A lot of the conversations are around housing and internet and childcare, healthcare, and so they're not that far apart, even though now, as someone who's running as MLA, I wouldn't just be representing students, I would be representing even a more diverse group of constituents.
So, how is the campaign going so far, Joanna? What kind of reception are you getting as you're knocking on doors across Inverness County and Port Hawkesbury?
It's been interesting because I've definitely never run a campaign at this level. I'm used to just small university campus, but I think it's been going well. I've done just a bit of door to door, and I've been hearing, a lot of concerns and things that I've maybe not even considered myself because it hasn't really affected me in that way. But it was good to hear those, and I'm happy to bring them forward to the party as well. And so, yeah, it's been interesting too that I've actually had a little more positive reception than I thought I was going to get. So yeah, that was really nice to hear that folks were looking for a change and happy to have this conversation.
Joanna, part of the reason we're doing this interview here at Tamarac Education Centre in Port Hawkesbury is because this place hits home for you for a number of reasons. You've been a substitute teacher here, but you're also a young mother yourself. You have a 4-year-old daughter. So what do you feel that the NDP platform offers for young families and those with school-aged children during this particular election campaign and beyond?
Childcare, especially licensed childcare, is it's kind of like a luxury, and it's like luck of the draw if you're able to access it here. So when you see that in a platform where they're looking to have licensed childcare in rural areas, which is really good, and to make it affordable for families is also extremely important. Childcare has always been difficult for me, just as a single mom and in university and things like that. So it's always been something I've struggled with, and I actually sit on the daycare board in Port Hood for the Bayview Child Care Development Center. And so I've really gotten even more to know about like how childcare works in the province. And so while I am very happy with what's seen in the platform, I think that we still also have a lot more work to do to ensure that licensed childcare centers are supported, their workers are supported. A huge thing, which is also highlighted in the NDP platform, is the wage disparity between folks who are working in daycare centers and folks who are working in the pre-primary program. And so I think that that is a huge thing that has to be tackled within the very near future. Otherwise, we will see a huge decline in licensed childcare centers that are able to provide care.
What other parts of the NDP platform do you really feel would serve Inverness County well as you're running in this particular election?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think as we head into, a recovery from COVID, which I know folks are really tired of hearing of, but I think that we're finally at a point where people are seeing the light kind of at the end of the tunnel. And I know that there is a huge priority being put on ensuring that emergency rooms are staying open, having, improved retention and recruitment of doctors especially in rural areas. Childcare, again, is so important. And I think like as we see things opening up and people are starting to recover, there's a lot of change that has to happen. And in some cases, a lot of these decisions are going to be thought as bold or kind of maybe too much. But I think that we're at a point that it kind of has to go that way if we want to see a positive change happen.
Joanna, not that long ago, you got some campaigning in locally with the leader of the New Democratic Party, Gary Burrill. What do you think would work for the people of Nova Scotia and for Inverness County if he became the premier?
Yeah, that actually was extremely helpful. I was super nervous. And I know even when we were canvassing, he was like, "Oh, I'm talking too much." And I was like, "No, I'm really happy for you to just show me the reins." And he was so supportive of me and it being my first time running as a candidate. And I think he has a lot of experience. And I think he has a lot of experience that would be, just really offer a change to folks. And I think that he really has taken the time to talk with a diverse group of folks. I know that the party prioritizes talking to students. And so he really takes the time to ensure that all the voices are being heard, and is just somebody who wants to see the best for Nova Scotia as a whole. And I think that he's done a really good job of also listening to rural voices, which I think for me, that's another reason I'm running is, rural Cape Breton, those voices matter. We are constituents in the province. And just because, we don't have the big malls or whatever it may be, like the priorities, we still need to be prioritized and recognized as valid constituents and folks that matter.
Joanna, obviously, one of the most difficult challenges in running in this riding is that it's a huge riding. It now includes the town of Port Hawkesbury for the first time in 8 years. And of course, you go from Port Hawkesbury all the way up to the Cape Breton Highlands, up to Meat Cove. What kind of challenge has that been like for you? And how has the experience been like in learning how to represent people from all across the riding of Inverness?
Yeah, that's been probably the toughest part. And to be honest, I didn't actually realize like how far the riding came into Port Hawkesbury until I saw the signs. And so I was kind of like overwhelmed and taken aback. But I think, you just do the best you can. And yeah, as far as like, I think the geographic location and the groups that it encompasses is also a little bit challenging. As you said, and as you mentioned, going up into Shedda Camp and also including Wakaba in that. And so knowing that there's, folks who have a strong connection to Acadian culture as well as Indigenous folks and, trying to make sure that that's represented, I think is extremely important. And so I think my most important message is that I'm not an expert in either of those things, but I recognize that both of those cultures hold, a special place and barriers that are unique to them. And so I think one thing I've learned about my time in student politics is being able to kind of outsource and not pretend to be the expert and really forming, partnership, collaboration, coalition, whatever it may be, in order to have experts informing you on the issues that are unique to them, and not being the person that's narrating that, but just kind of amplifying what's been said. And so I think that is an extremely important part to understanding the folks that are in this riding.
You mentioned Cheticamp, and you have an advantage that not many candidates have had in Inverness over the years. You are fluently bilingual. So can you tell me a little bit about what that experience has been like, being able to communicate with the French Acadian population in Cheticamp as you're connecting with them in this particular election campaign?
I mean, I think it's really handy because it has informed me in a few different ways. When we speak exclusively about French, I've had the opportunity to study at St. Anne for 7 years, and also to take courses that kind of give me a little bit of background on what it means to be in a situation where your language is the minority. And so just understanding kind of the challenges or the injustice in a way that brings to communicating and being able to communicate in your first language, and knowing that that's extremely important. But kind of, as I mentioned, I think that does lend well also to when we consider Indigenous folks in this, and understanding that there is a diverse group of people that need to be heard, and that's extremely important.
On a similar note, Joanna, we're not that far removed from La Fédération Acadienne de la Nouvelle-Écosse, La FAN, pushing for a new riding in Cheticamp as opposed to having it included in the Inverness riding. What are your thoughts on the concept of a separate constituency for the people of Cheticamp to be able to recognize their French Acadian culture?
I've reached out to the lawyer on that project. I have yet to be able to talk to him. It's just been extremely busy, but I don't want to go out and say that it's going to happen, but I do recognize that is extremely important, and I think that it is something that folks who are running do need to understand and consider that as a true possibility, because we have seen other Acadian folks get a riding, and I do understand. I've lived in Clare for a bit, and I've studied in other parts where Acadian culture is very prevalent, and so I think that is something that is extremely important and is a very valid concern, and I totally am in support of having that conversation and understanding what's needed on this side to ensure that could be a success in the future.
So, Joanna, as we head into the home stretch of this election campaign, how do you feel about your chances on election day, and what do you feel you've gained from this campaign experience, win or lose?
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at this like win or lose. It's been a great experience, and I know, if I don't win this time, everybody's going to see my name next time, hopefully. But I think that regardless, it's been extremely just like a really good opportunity to have this conversation started where, there is more option. I think often, I want to speak only to the riding, but I think like often we think of just conservative or liberals, and the NDP does have a strong platform, and we're at the best time to make a change. And so even if that doesn't go my way and sees me elected, I think that it's been a great opportunity to start a conversation and to really have people have the option to really have a choice other than one or the other. And so I think that's been the best thing, and the most valuable thing I take from this is just that, we had the conversation, and folks were able to really just think like what is important, and we're in a time where that's like the number one thing when we're recovering from such an interesting past 2 years.
We've covered a lot of ground in a short time, Joanna. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap all this up?
Yeah, I think the only thing I really have to say is I think when folks look at me, they probably think, wow, she's really young, but I do have a lot of experience, and I'm extremely passionate about, making a difference and having a positive spin on things. And so I know that as an MLA, if elected, I would definitely prioritize all folks. I have a lot of experience with just so many different groups of people, and I think that's lent well to this, and I would be extremely excited to have the opportunity to represent folks and ensure that their voices are just amplified in the decision-making spaces that we have.
Joanna Clark, good luck the rest of the way, and thank you so much for giving us some time here on Telile 24/7 today.
Thank you so much.